get back at the appropriate time. We have to hear the ladies in this state because we are women of excellence. We are from this great state, and I look around and will say welcome to you all. Thank you very much, and I'd like to take over from here.
I'm praising goodness is still in order. There is no one here who will not know. And it's your moment. I was going to ask the bandstand to do a twist for us. Please say welcome. The owner of the car with Abuja registration CF243, we are assisting us greatly.
Is very well present in our quality consciousness. He is carrying that quality into whatever he does. Look at what he did for us. And you can see here, if you see the water.
Let me help you out. It is
of the House, members of the House of Assembly, head of service, body of permanent sector generals of Nigeria University, development, board of postgraduate school, the registrar of the university, the bursar of the university, the librarian of the university, our deans, and heads of describing each of these honorable and distinguished members. Because I have to start where I have to start. Because you must participate with me. We have a governor, we have a leader, and particularly as night storm today, transformation, it is a moment of joy for us all. And in this story, only yesterday, this governor, to all our ears, as before the new commissioners, was unambiguous about the pursuit of service for the people on it. As of such is the University Pro-Chancellor, who is also chairman, a historian, outstanding scholar, was in high school, precisely the 1960 class. His teaching career remained reputable and distinguished service to this university, leading us in the cause and in the merit of the dignity of labor. Because of him, and because of the respect he brings with him, and I speak sincerely of his hair, but I was no stranger through him. I was a trainer. And one subject most days, exactly what you find below are the hidden strengths of the iceberg. I want to tell you, we have an iceberg. It reveals a very calm, yes, alert response to what you think. So under this fragile and affliction of diligence, let me warn you therefore, never, for your own safety, run away with the tip of the iceberg.
For me, as the chief cook, I did the sacred lecture forum, which is the first in the annual graduate school lecture series. We warmly welcome to this university our visitor and governor of Ekiti State, who is going to make the decision. But today, His Excellency Dr. John is a visitor to this university. I wonder why a visitor, or a proprietor can be a visitor to his property. But that's the way the concept goes. We call him visitor, but he's a proprietor. I also want to welcome very warmly Professor Ladipo Adamaleko, who has accepted to be the chairman of this occasion. And I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Today's lecture, which is titled Reflections on Values and the Other of the Graduate Studies Lecture Series. The topic reminds me of our seminal responsibilities as teachers, practitioners, and researchers. Traditionally, postgraduate education has always through the generation of new knowledge and systematic diffusion, and above all, to create and protect independent intellect. But this mission goes beyond this in a developing world context as ours. A telling example is Nigeria, where with over 146 universities today, and using the present figures of enrollment and the required teacher-student ratio of 1 to 20, we will need to increase the number of academic staff in Nigerian universities from the current 26,000 lecturers to 50,000 lecturers, with minimum required qualification of a doctorate degree. Postgraduate education is therefore to respond positively to the training of postgraduate students for the much-needed high-level manpower development in the country. This includes the training of students to increase in adequate number of university teaching staff. In solving this problem of succession in Nigeria, a number of first-generation universities are going to be designated as essentially postgraduate training institutions to solve the problem of succession in tertiary institutions. One of our main tasks
Ekiti State University in the coming years is to expand and develop postgraduate courses, not the faculty, and to expand our postgraduate enrollment to at least 25% in the next 10 years. Mr. Governor, my remark will not be complete without sharing with this line the stories of how Ekiti State University has been directly or indirectly touched by your administration unprecedented contribution to the development of this university. This started with the most sensible, seamless merger of the former universities of Abeokuta, University of Science and Technology in Ibadan, and the University of Education in Ibadan, into what we now have as Ekiti State University. We acknowledge your vision and passion to reposition Ekiti State University to a world-class university, and your non-interference and freedom the university enjoys in running its affairs. Since its creation in 1982, that is 30 years ago, the university has never enjoyed capital vote until the advent of your administration. This has facilitated the ongoing construction of the medical library building, the biochemistry and pharmacology building, and the medical students hostel. All this put together, along with 4 other tech-fund buildings now under construction, have turned our campus into a massive construction site. Ekiti State University is perhaps the only university in Nigeria today with the president of a nation as a distinguished honorary alumnus. I'm talking about the President of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. John Dramani Mahama, who has become our honorary graduate. And this is facilitated by Mr. Governor. Mr. Governor, you have initiated many global connections, international collaboration, linkages and professional networks for Ekiti State University. This includes the University of South Africa in Johannesburg, WITS, University of KwaZulu-Natal, University of Manitoba, Arizona State University, just to mention a few. And presently we enjoy the partnership with IPM, which was the initiative of the Ekiti State government. In fact, this singular act has given us great impetus to even aggressively seek international reach on our own, and we have got many now. So we have so many of them, and all these have improved the university's international visibility, and in fact has contributed to the improved webometric rating of the university, which last year was 79th position, but has improved to 19th position as of today. By the grace of God, Mr. Governor, you will be the first serving executive governor in the nation that will take up research and teaching appointment in our Institute of Governance, when established in the second quarter of this year. I will be lucky to be a Vice Chancellor over my staff. Who will be the executive governor of the state? Mr. Governor, you acknowledge scholarship and leadership, your intellectual disposition towards governance, your vision and passion for positive change make us at Ekiti State University very proud of you as our visitor and future pride. And I want to assure you, sir, that the transformation of Ekiti State University, the repositioning of this university to the 21st century world-class university, remains an unshakable commitment on our part. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank Ekiti State University through the Vice Chancellor and the Dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies for honoring me to share this occasion. When the Vice Chancellor called me and said the governor was going to give the speech, I told him he can be rest assured that I would be available. The brief remarks I will make will focus on two things. The first, youth, glad we have many of them here, youth, political activism, and educational excellence. I think that, I was away for many years, but I've been back for almost 9 years now. It's over 8 years. The kind of activism we noted in our time is missing. And I think the topic of this lecture, when I saw it, was what suggested that I should make my opening remarks. In my first year in Ibadan, I got the senior academic here with the Ibadan people. We are referring to the big university, the premier university of Nigeria. In my first year, I was Assistant Publicity Secretary of the Action Group Youth Wing, Assistant Secretary of the Historical Society of the University, and Assistant Librarian of the French Club in the University. Those were my 3 subjects in the university. And through those activities, I met senior academics, and I found that extremely useful. Indeed, I'm going to just briefly let you know that in that first year, the picture you see at the back here is Ayo Basomi, who was the chairman, Action Group Youth Association Western Nigeria. And in March 1965, that is still in my first year, we organized a birthday celebration for Awolowo, who was in prison in Ikenne. And in this contribution here, I will read to you, because it's related to the theme of the governor's lecture, just very briefly, part of what I selected from Chief Awolowo's that inspired me to be that active. And the quality of the values and idealism, those are the things you gain from being active. As I said, I will just read it briefly. I have 4 sections, and I will read only one section. Awo, the philosopher, Awo and the common man, the advocates of Awo, and Awo and democratic socialism. The little I will read is from Awo, the philosopher. Firstly, from cradle to grave, the story of a man's life is one of continuous striving after ideals of perfection. No man ever attains to perfection or ever succeeds in scaling the pinnacle of ideals. But a man exhibits himself as the true image of God only when he relentlessly strives after one or more of the noble ideals known to man. That is why a sage has defined a saint as a sinner who continually strives to do good. For a man or for a nation, the abandonment of an unflinching striving after idealism or perfection is the beginning of irretrievable decay and degeneration. The second one of the essences of greatness and immortality is the capacity to stand alone in the cause of what one believes to be right. And then it cites people who have stood alone for the cause they believe to be right. And they include Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Abraham Lincoln as his examples. So, as a young man, that was the context of activity. And I want to tell the students there that being active does not prevent you from achieving the other side of what I've just mentioned, which is educational excellence. In spite of those activities I mentioned, I still ended the year and I was made a university scholar. So you can be active and still achieve university excellence. Now, one of those things that I remember, and I want to do it, I want to put it to practice, was that on arrival at Bali, you look at the notice board, you see a number of prizes being advertised. And then I decided I will have to go for this. This is a history essay. I can't remember the exact title, but the title of my essay was Slave Trade in West Africa, or the title of the competition. And of course, I won the prize. Challenging the undergraduates there, you know, postgraduate students, you will administer it. I think you should be a final year student. Well, actually, because after all, Olagafi Yomi, who won the essay prize in 1961, read science. And it was that prize that turned him to read diplomacy and international relations. So the challenge is for an undergraduate of this university, not postgraduate, an undergraduate, to write a review of Out of the Shadows that would be appropriate for publication in a top university journal. And that student has a token 10,000 naira reward to buy books. And the dean of postgraduate studies, when you decided, let me have the essay and exchange the check with you. I hope the university will arrange for the publication. I'm not going to say much about educational excellence. Early this year, I was preparing for some other lecture. And I came across a study in the UK. And the message there, the government has already taken it up. And the Ministry of Education through their laptops for students. But the message is clear. Any teenager who does not have access to the internet is educationally disadvantaged. Teenagers without access to the internet are educationally disadvantaged. If you take this university, I was looking at the needs assessment of universities. The internet capacity of this university is low. So on that basis, I can say undergraduates in EXU educationally disadvantaged. And the challenge for the Vice Chancellor is that before the end of his first term, he must have reversed that trend. So that's the challenge for the Vice Chancellor. The second part of my remarks focus or will link us to the speaker. I'm not going to take you too far so that you will listen to the guest speaker. And the topic of that remark is intellectuals in politics. And I will give you two quotes. The first quote, if wise men ask to govern, and if men will govern, and they will pass foolish laws which wise men have to obey. And the second quote is as follows. When an intellectual gets into politics in Africa, he abandons his intellect. Now, you will know that that latter part have flagged significantly to many intellectuals who are bought into politics in Nigeria, particularly under the military, and maybe even up to the present time. But I think your governor belongs to the first position. I said I think, nobody shouted. You also have said I should know. Of course I know. And the next thing I'm going to say is to demonstrate to you that the person who is going to speak to you is an intellectual in politics for you to emulate. First, just 1 year after assuming power, he won the prize of Governor of the Year declared by Leadership newspaper. He was Leadership Governor of the Year for 2011. And I'm sure you know that's not a Southwest-based newspaper. So that's a national recognition. Next, I will quote to you, I'm sure I won't tell you to say guess where this is from. And I quote, in a short time, you have confronted the development challenges of your people, courage and confidence, that come only from a trade, a progressive orientation, and a fierce commitment to democratic ideals. Those words of Bolaji Ahmed Asiwaju Tinubu, I subscribe fully to them. He happens to have uttered them, and I want to bring them to your attention. Finally, and this is important, and it is not all progress started, because of the quality of political activism he has demonstrated. Just a few weeks ago, the new mega party, you know they talk about mega school, so we can call it mega party. The new mega party that has just emerged, All Progressives Congress, and they decided that the governor will be chairman, contact and mobilization committee of All Progressives Congress South Zone. Those three snapshots capture, in my view, what an intellectual in politics should be. It combines both the excellence in terms of intellect and practical action in terms of results. But I'm anticipating myself. I will now call the person who will invite the speaker. Thank you very much.
A great pleasure, honor and privilege to welcome His Excellency Dr. Kayode Fayemi, Governor of Ekiti State, and visitor to the university, who is incidentally is the guest lecturer at this very first interdisciplinary lecture on the School of Postgraduate Studies, Ekiti State University of Ekiti. I wish to warmly welcome our own Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of the Governing Council, Emeritus Professor Akinyi Ochutoku, our own Baba here in EXU, our Vice Chancellor Professor Patrick Oladipo Aina, our other principal officers of the university to this epoch-making occasion. Equally, I welcome Professor Oladipo Adamalaika, a distinguished scholar and former Dean, Faculty of Administration of Bafemi Awolowo University in Ife, who has graciously accepted to be the chairman of this program. Baba, we are very sorry for the communication gap today. I apologize on behalf of the School of Postgraduate Studies. To all our distinguished friends and guests, members of the Council and Senate of the State University, the board, management staff and students of the School of Postgraduate Studies, the entire university community, gentlemen of the press, you are actually welcome. The university started its postgraduate programs in 1986 with the introduction of the postgraduate diploma in education, Master of Education in Guidance and Counseling, both in the Faculty of Education. Other faculties that are introduced postgraduate programs as the mature the scope and science. Today, all faculties in the university run postgraduate programs as diploma, master, and doctorate. The postgraduate programs were initially run at faculties, and their various courses were responsible for superintending over their respective programs and making recommendations ahead to the Senate. However, the first centralized board of postgraduate studies was inaugurated on the 6th of December 1996 by late Professor Peter Podori, a former Vice Chancellor of the university. While the board, as presently constituted, was approved by the University Senate on 28th of January 1999, and that marked the beginning of a full-fledged School of Postgraduate Studies. Permit me to acknowledge former deans of the school, especially Professors D.O. Wamana and J.O. Arisala, for laying the good foundation for the school. Broadly speaking, the objective of the school is to further development in postgraduate studies, the spirit of inquiry through training in research in an atmosphere of intellectual independence and individual creativity. In order to realize this noble objective, the school fosters, through instructions, a deeper understanding of elementary concepts of an increased ability to apply functional ideas to new problems. Our students in the school were therefore made to realize quite early that their intellectual growth and solid success are directly related to the depth of their command of basic principles. Although graduate studies are mainly associated with a high degree of specialization, such a specialization is or must be secondary to extending mental horizons, possessing new orientations, and developing a depth of understanding. It is in pursuit of this goal that the board of the School of Postgraduate Studies at its 115th meeting held on 19 July 2012 decided to commence the interdisciplinary lecture series. We feel fulfilled and highly delighted that the committee board went through no action in nominating and obtaining the consent of our dear Dr. Kayode Fayemi, an erudite scholar of international politics, war and peace studies, who without much ado suggested the topic of today's lecture, quote, reflecting on values and the bravery of a successful generation in Nigeria, unquote. Your Excellency, we are proud that we have a thoroughbred, educated, knowledgeable, brilliant, contemporarily relevant and reliable leadership in your person to deliver the maiden edition of the lecture series. You are indeed a wonderful gift to the state, the land of honor in particular, and to our generation in general. It is pertinent to quickly state a few reasons why this event is so important to us in the School of Postgraduate Studies. One, the School of Postgraduate Studies has twice in recent times received a commendation and special award from the Committee of Deans of Postgraduate Schools in Nigeria University for its active participation in these activities. This has earned us the hosting right for the 5th meeting of the CPPKS, which will take place at this university a few weeks from now. This lecture has indeed added another feather to our cap and prepare us for greater giant strides. Two, it is an opportunity to demonstrate our relevance among postgraduate schools and colleges in Nigeria and to showcase our preparedness in accepting further challenges in the area of postgraduate teaching and research. It may interest Mr. Governor and the general audience to know that the board of the School of Postgraduate Studies are just recommended postgraduate programs in peace and security studies and governance and service delivery for Senate consideration and approval. Both programs, we believe, when approved, will further assist the government in this bid to achieve its cardinal goals in the 8-point agenda, particularly in the area of corporate governance and service delivery. It is our hope that our guest lecturer will not only participate actively in the operation of the Institute of Governance when established, but will harness the needed resources to build human capacity through the retraining and retraining of public servants using this platform to be provided by the proposed programs in the Institute. 3. As for the uniqueness of this occasion, it is worthy of note that this is the very first interdisciplinary lecture of the School of Postgraduate Studies in the State University, and it's been delivered by the first minister of the state, who is an elder scholar, an eloquent public speaker, and a veteran rights activist. I wish to publicly acknowledge with regard the moral and financial support of our Vice Chancellor, which has really contributed to the successful organization of this lecture. Furthermore, the School of Postgraduate Studies is grateful to the Governing Council of this university for approving the construction of a magnificent building for the school. It is our hope that very soon we should be able to occupy the building, which from all indications will be the first of its kind in Nigeria. Your Excellency, there is no doubt that you were divinely guided in your thoughts in choosing the topic of this lecture. which is not only relevant and contemporary, but is quite motivating. These are desired the School of Programming Studies to effort make this international lecture an annual event. Once again, on behalf of the board, management staff, students of the School of Programming Studies, I am glad to welcome very specially our distinguished guest lecturer, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, the governor of the state and visitor to the state university, the chairman of this occasion, principal officers, students of the university, and all our friends and guests to the program. I do wish you a pleasant time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite Dr. Wale Olajide to give the citation of the guest lecturer, the governor of Ekiti State, Dr.
Isho Ekiti. Mr. Governor, we start off from Christ School in Ado Ekiti. You want to clap again for Christ School. Before proceeding to the University of Lagos for his bachelor's in history, he obtained his master's in politics and international relations in 1987 from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University. Please be reminded that has traveled this far. Technical advisors to ECOWAS on small firearms and light weapons. And here I pause a little. Because I'm not sure if Mr. Governor has not sent his contributions already to President Barack Obama on the raging gun issue in America. I think the temptation is too great. Mr. Governor was member, Presidential Implementation Committee on Security Sector Reform, on NEPA and the Millennium Goals. He is a member of the Africa Policy Advisory Panel of the British Commonwealth, British Government, member Commonwealth Human Rights Initiatives, Committee of Experts on Developing Guiding Principles and Mechanism of Constitution Making in Commonwealth Africa, member Governing Board of the Open Society Justice Institute, member
distinguished deans and faculty and heads of departments, other distinguished leaders of our people, our guests from IBM, other guests invited to this august occasion, the great Nigerian students of Ekiti State University. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the risk of being contrarian, I'm going to have to express some concern for these effusive protocols that attend this event. I wish we would not invite the culture that is so rampant out there within the context of a university society. I thought we would launch into the business of the game much earlier and not have to indulge in these superficial honorifics that I always complain about all the time. The university is the universe of ideas. And the more it distances itself from some of the challenges we're dealing with out there, the more it is able to influence change in our values and our orientation. But I'd like to begin by thanking you, the Vice Chancellor and the Dean of the School of Postgraduate Studies and your staff for this invitation. And also I'd like to thank all who are present here at the university, a growing citadel worthy of equity, for asking me to deliver the first in the series of interdisciplinary lectures of the graduate school of this academy. I thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Patrick Aino, in whom I am well pleased for the great strides he has been implementing since assuming office here. And the Dean of the Postgraduate School, Professor Ediolani Pekun. The chairman of this occasion is a mentor of mine, and of course, I am very proud that I was the one asked, even without my knowledge, to share this occasion. A distinguished academic and a passionate progressive. I want to thank the faculty and principal staff, students and other fellow travelers, my colleagues from the Ekiti State government who are here present. I feel a natural kinship with the academy for several reasons. Not only do I consider it my primary constituency from which I have received so much nurture and training. In my present assignment in the public service, even though I know I'm an accidental politician, I'm not an accidental public servant. And that's why I consider myself as only being on a temporary leave of absence from academia. But above all, there is no discounting the value of academic pursuits or the academic orientation in this period and time that we're in, which is referred to in many quarters as the age of knowledge. The university, as I indicated earlier, is the universe, drawing in the best and keenest of minds that have come from far and wide to create a platform of solutions for understanding and engaging the nature of our reality and the world in which we live. It's the universe of possibilities, relentlessly reshaping and extending what we know and are capable of knowing, while offering renewed insights. As the first steward in and son of this state, and no less a Nigerian, as many of you are, I have come to share some of my own thoughts on how we can advance the cause of our democracy in this country and create the basis for consolidating and perpetuating many of the unprecedented freedoms that we're currently enjoying in the state and across Nigeria. And this brings me to the theme of my lecture, Reflections of Values and the Building of a Successful Generation in Nigeria. The first sentence in that well-renowned book by Chinua Achebe, The Trouble with Nigeria, goes as follows. The trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. There is nothing basically wrong with the Nigerian land or climate or water or air or anything else. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibilities and to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmarks of true leadership. Professor Achebe's observation about the condition of our society continues to resonate 3 decades after he issued that damning critique of the Nigerian elite. It continues to resonate so insistently, in fact, that the notion of an overarching leadership failure as the root of our societal ills has almost become something of a cliché, a staple soundbite issued by everyone, including political leaders like myself. It has become at once an explanatory tool as well as an excuse. But the theme of leadership failure is one that we must continue to investigate beyond its superficial deployment as a critique of bad politicians. At the time that Achebe was writing in 1983, just as the Second Republic was about to collapse, Nigeria was undergoing what was at least described at the time as a democratic experiment. In fact, the Second Republic was actually terminated by military intervention on the last day of that year. As military regimes were wont to do throughout our history, the new military regime cited the corruption and incompetence of the civilian politicians for bringing the country to the brink of collapse. They argued that given the foibles of the political class, the military intervention was a patriotic necessity to avert the country's descent into anarchy. The irony is that this intervention inaugurated a 15-year spell of military dictatorship, which turned out to be far more ruinous than the truncated era of civilian rule. By the early 1990s, there was a growing consensus that the nation had to be saved from the erstwhile saviors, the military, and that the new savior had to be democracy. Nigeria had come full circle. Today, however, there is a sense that the promise of 1999 has dissipated, and that the political luminaries of the present dispensation have not been particularly attentive to the lessons of our history. This feeling of disillusionment is nothing new. It was in the air in 1983 as well. Thus it seems that in the course of our quest for good leadership, which has seen us test various models, stern authoritarians, Muhammadu Buhari and Tunde Ibiaku, benevolent smiling dictators, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, tyrannical totalitarians, General Sani Abacha, and now civilian politicians who have come up empty. If after 30 years we're still citing bad leadership as the root of all or most of our problems, we should now be interrogating the cultural and institutional forces, both subliminal and overt, which conspire to ensure that our society constantly throws up bad leaders. This is especially expedient against the backdrop of 2 reasons. First, there is the urgent need to address the apparent loss of faith in Nigeria and our prospects by the younger generation, even as we approach the centenary of the creation of Nigeria, at least the British creation of Nigeria. Already, signs of failure are evident in the planning of the federal government celebrations for this landmark in our collective history. At a time, we ought to soberly reflect and take affirmative action geared towards ensuring a successor generation effectively redefining the Nigerian dream in the context of our contemporary reality against all odds. Second, there is the need to look into our societal model of incubating new leaders. stand a chance of national regard. We must of necessity ensure that the whole brigade, described by Professor Wole Soyinka as a wasted generation, which requisitely has to act as nursing mother to the emerging generation, does not contaminate them with the same tendency and thus prime them to failure. This cross-generational imperative requires, amongst other things, robust engagement such as the one that the School of Postgraduate Studies has made available today. My contributions there are by no means intended to be exhaustive. Rather, I offer them as a preliminary investment in a conversation that must continue long after we have left this place. For the struggle to better our living arrangements, to actualize the good society on our shores, and to enhance the quality of leadership is always work in progress. It never ends. Every generation, as Frantz Fanon once said, and I believe many of us are familiar with who Frantz Fanon was, must discover its mission or betray it. In order not to betray its mission, every generation must inherit the thirst for and expand the frontiers of achievement, enriching the store of wisdom by which society and its leadership constantly reinvents itself. This is the very essence of the idea of a progressive society. And it's against this background that I once again thank the Dean, as well as the leadership of the State University, for granting me your hallowed rostrum to share my thoughts with you. This is especially important because I am neither a youth nor an old man. Some say I'm a senior youth, and I'm glad to accept that status. I also know, however, that Nigeria is one country where an individual in his 60s will come out feel because he thought he had just been cheated in the contest for the post of the national youth leader of a political party. If a 60-year-old is a youth, when does adulthood begin in Nigeria? I have no answer to that. Nor am I sure we should be bothered about that for now. Suffice it to say that I am very excited to be here and look forward to an interactive engagement. Where did we go wrong as a country and as a people? There are three trends that I believe are relevant to the crisis of leadership in our country. First, corruption and the decline of moral values. Second, the conceptual debasement of leadership itself. And third, the inability and unwillingness of leaders to reproduce themselves. Corruption and the decline of moral values. We cannot separate the theme of leadership failure from the general plague of corruption and failure in our society. Indeed, one might argue that both of them are mutually reinforcing. As leadership continues to fail, that is, as we fail to produce inadequate number of exemplars of capable leadership, society's descent into moral anarchy also accelerates. And as the degeneracy of the society missing, leadership in every dimension of public life begins to bear the stamp of decadence. There are many perspectives from which one may attack the problem of corruption, but for our purpose today, it will suffice to zero in on one, namely the monetization of value and the growing inability to perceive and articulate one's life goals in non-material terms. It is almost impossible now for us to define life's meaning in terms that have nothing to do with the bottom line, money. young Nigerians are being socialized, and they are still being socialized in such a way that they have no conception of non-material achievement. We have created a culture that surrounds and esteems the big man, but not the studious, not the hard worker. We esteem riches, but not intellect, except possibly where intellect is deployed solely in service of the raw pursuit of wealth. It is evident in our school where the studious types are labeled in my days as effico, I don't know what they call them now, if they're studious, and treated as dead, freaks, and outcasts for fulfilling the demands of scholarship and pursuing enlightenment, while those who skip classes and cheat their way through exams are exalted as the happy people. But this is, in a sense, a reflection of the larger society too. Well has been apotheosized, and material acquisition is defined as the sole purpose of life. In our monetized society, it is believed that to be heard, to be reckoned with, you need to have lots and lots of money. Huge Ghana must go back. And the more of it you have, the louder your voice. These are several implications, of course. The monetization of value means that young people, whatever their promise and their potential, believe that they have to join the right race for material gain. Everything in the social and moral environment urges them to join the generation of hustlers, emerging from our institutions, and do whatever is necessary to become